Aloha and welcome to Hope for Hawaii, a heartfelt podcast series. Created by Sarah, a stress expert with roots in Hawaii and residing on the ninth island of Las Vegas. Her deep connection to both places has woven a unique tapestry of inspiration, love, and support for our Hawaiian community.
Welcome to Hope for Hawaii. I'm your host and stress expert, Sarah. We are here to offer a guiding light through this dark time. Our podcast, Hope for Hawaii, is a heartfelt endeavor, born to inspire those affected by the Maui fires and anyone else navigating adversity. Through heartwarming stories, our storytellers will give practical tools, help nurture you, and help you create resilience and foster a strong sense of community. And for those who share the spirit of aloha. Enjoy Hope for Hawaii. Hi, and welcome to Hope for Hawaii. I'm your host, Sarah, and we are here again with another wonderful story with a wonderful friend as well in helping you to instill hope and resilience during these difficult times. And that's why we named the podcast Hope for Hawaii. And no matter if it's the fires, the tragedy, all of the things that have gone on recently in your lives or in the world, I know we all have a story that has really impacted our lives, something that's been difficult for us to go through. And what we find over time is that struggle, although difficult, on the other end of it, we have a different perspective. And that different perspective allows us to help other folks like you to get through the difficult times. So I'm very, very excited to bring on the next person, Kat Mullin. She is not only a fellow master NLP practitioner, she's a coach, she's a best-selling author. She has an amazing book. If you haven't gotten it, we're going to drop the information for you to get that for her. She's a keynote speaker. She focuses on self-awareness and emotional intelligence. She has such a big heart, and she helps families. She helps individuals. She specializes in helping moms too, the whole dynamic of the family. And she helps them to break generational patterns, these patterns that are keeping them stuck. And not only does she do all of that, she is a mom of 3 amazing kids. All of the stories, all of the adventures that these kids have gone through, you can see the background that she has. She spends so much time in nature, and she just helps her kids to be in touch with that nature and helps them learn and grow inside of a classroom, outside of a classroom, of the world. So I'm so excited to bring on my friend. She's just the greatest teacher of life. So welcome, Kat Mullin.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so excited to be here with you. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. And, when I know your background, but not everybody does. And I know that you've been through a lot of different things in your life, and you've had some struggles. And, if you didn't have that glimmer of hope, you wouldn't have the resilience you have now. And so, can you share a story, just a story of hope or resilience that you've personally gone through that can help our viewers here?
Absolutely. And forgive me if I get emotional. Like you said, I have been through many struggles in my life, as we all have. The hardest thing I personally ever went through was the loss of my daughter. I was 5 months pregnant, and there was a lot of anatomical issues happening. And she just wasn't meant to continue outside of my body. However, her extremely short little life impacted mine so deeply. We named her Taylor after my maiden name. My husband wanted her to have both of our names, so Taylor Mullin. However, her middle name is Hope, because in the moment that we found out, we were keeping her gender a surprise for the birth. when we realized we weren't going to make it full term, we decided to find out her gender. And when the doctor told us she was a girl, which I had instinctually knew from the moment I found out I was pregnant, I turned to my husband and said, I really want her middle name to be Hope, because in this moment, that is the one thing I need right now. I need hope moving forward and getting through this devastating loss. So her name is Taylor Hope. And who did she impact my life? She is the whole reason I do everything I do to serve others. Because of her, I got in touch with my spirituality. I wasn't quite an atheist, but I didn't really have any strong beliefs either. And her life needed to mean something. It was like, there's no way she came here for no purpose. So for the first time ever, I got down on my knees and prayed. And I asked the universe, God, I was like, her life had to mean something. Please show me how to make her life meaningful. How can I honor her? And I said my prayer, and then I got up and I laid in bed, and I immediately heard a voice that was not my own. And it said, volunteer at the Children's Hospital. And I was like, well, that's perfect. So I did that for 2 years. I volunteered in the playroom, which was really cool, because nothing will give you hope like being around a bunch of sick children that are laughing and enjoying life and living in the moment. So that was for a good 2 years after that. And it took me at least 2 years after losing her to be ready to try again for another child. And when I finally was like, okay, let's try again, it then took another 7 years or so. Not quite, maybe 8 years of trying. And the monthly negative tests, the ovulation kits, the whole 9 yards, like just no fun. It really took the joy out of trying to be a mom. That's all, my husband wanted to be a dad more than anything. I wanted to be a mom. However, I knew I would be okay if I wasn't a mom. I knew I would travel and I would keep volunteering. I also went to India on a volunteer trip in her honor and gave dental assisting to the children of the Himalayan mountains that couldn't afford dental care. And so that was an amazing experience. And all of this was because of Taylor Hope. And I got to a point where after years of trying, I was like, you know what? I'm ready to be done. It's too much. It's an emotional roller coaster. And I was ready to give up and just resign to the fact that I wasn't meant to have children here on earth with me. And then I went to church. And the church I attended at the time was non-denominational, and its focus was meditation and finding God within yourself. So I was sitting there, and they always, say a few things and then start with the meditation. I was meditating, wasn't thinking about babies at all. And I heard that voice again. And this time, clear as day, it said, you will be pregnant by the end of the year. And I was like, what? I just said I'm ready to give up. Now, in the meantime, we had gone to fertility specialists. We found out that I had some scarring in my uterus from when they took Taylor Hope out of me, and that was preventing an egg from implanting. But I just wasn't emotionally ready to let anybody else go in there and do anything to my body. So I declined the surgery. But after I heard that voice, I knew I was ready. And I went and I had the surgery. And 3 months later, I was pregnant. And now I have 3.
Wow. Wow. And talk about not only hope and how fitting that that's what you named her, is the amount of hope that you had, and then you almost gave up and you almost lost it. And just that little glimmer, that little light that stayed within you, mm-hmm. and the different things that you did to give back to your community, to give to your, not only yourself, but something bigger than you.
Yes.
And you wouldn't have been able to do that potentially if, if she was in your arms, and how much light and love that you gave to these children while you volunteered for those 2 years. And then when you went to another part of the world to bring in just that, in the Himalayas, I mean, my goodness, what more spiritual and inspirational place could you have been other than that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, Sarah, that was such an amazing point you just made, because for those years I did the Children's Hospital. I volunteered at domestic abuse shelters, watching their children so they could go to counseling. And then I did things that didn't have anything to do with children. I, went to feed the homeless vets, stuff like that. There was the San Diego wildfires back in 2007. They came very close to my place. Very blessed and lucky that they did not reach my home. But I was able to go volunteer and help where homes were destroyed. And any volunteering I did, I have a heart for children, but any of it I did was in Taylor Hope's name. However, when I finally became a mom, you are absolutely right. The volunteering went out the window for a long time. I just didn't have the time, the mental or physical energy to go do it anymore. And now as my kids are getting older, I take them every once in a while to food pantries, or recently we were volunteering at a horse shelter, stuff like that. So they do get a taste of volunteering, but we don't have like that super regular volunteering I used to do.
And that's a great point, is that, being able to connect and having your children be alongside of you to also give back several years later.
Yeah.
Because that volunteering did help to fill up your cup, to help fill you with something that could have been a void in your life because of that sorrow and that loss.
It filled me so much.
Yeah. Because, like I say a lot, and especially in the book, in my stressed out book, is,
yes,
you cannot pour into others if you are not filled yourself. So
absolutely.
You have to fill up your cup, you have to recharge. You have to do all of those things. And you also know the story, but for the listeners, I have some really good friends. I know both sides of the couple. They had a child who only made it 7 months in this world. And after their child passed, they volunteered for several years in the NICU. And they became... they got awards for, oh my gosh, March of Dimes, and through the casino that they worked at. And they run all these prestigious awards, and not because they were looking for some validation, not because they were, hey, look at me and look how much I'm giving. It was more because they felt the need to give back to those parents, those families that were suffering the way they were. And so many hundreds of families that they impacted because of it. I see the similarities, that's what you did also. And again, not for the recognition of it. And I think the same happens like right now is, there's so many people either on Maui or on Oahu or, anywhere else that can volunteer in whatever capacity, whether it's, giving their funds, whether it's, spending time, like what we're doing here is sharing these stories of hope. And so the time, money, and energy are our three biggest resources, right? And if you can give one or all of those, how amazing is that to help somebody in some kind of way, financially, emotional, spiritually, mentally. All of those things matter. And by you just getting in touch with who you are, you were so in touch with nature and the earth. And I love how much you're connected to that. And that's why I think that it's so meaningful that you did that.
Yes. And like you said, it's not about the volunteering. it's for you too. Like, people would be like, oh, you're so giving. You're always volunteering. I'm like, oh, please, I'm completely selfish. You know how good it makes me feel? Of course, I enjoy doing it for them, but it really does fill you up on such a spiritual level.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And it doesn't, we have such as this societal thing of either this person wins or that person wins. But you know what? When you do something like volunteering and you get lifted up and you help lift others, we all just get lifted up at the same time, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's such the greatest gift, I think, is that
I
when we
love it.
all win, when we all rise up, when we're all able to come together. And that's what I've seen so many times over and over where, when tragedy strikes, especially when this happened with the fires, there's people that just went into this survival mode, and we tend to do that. We go into fight or flight. We have that background, and we're both licensed massage therapists. We know that too.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we understand what happens in the body physiologically and how that stress manifests, right? But even more so when people go into that survival mode and they just start doing, and they go, let's get supplies, let's feed people, let's create shelters, let's give them whatever we can give without depleting ourselves completely, because
Right.
I can recharge. And that's such an amazing thing to be able to see and to do. And I love that you've done that. And what other tools do you have that you can share with our listeners and viewers here that will help them in this time of need?
A really important thing to do, because like you said, everybody goes into the fight and flight mode. And in this moment, you do need to fight. And the whole community comes together to build those shelters, make sure everybody has food and water. And that alone gives you so much hope to see a community come together and survive. However, at some point, you're going to have a little downtime. Things are going to start coming back together for the community. And that's when you're going to need, for your own personal mental health, to go, whew, and start to recognize, like, wow, I just went through something major and I need to feel my feelings now. And so something I very strongly teach my children is, and that I do my best to be such a great example of, is when something happens to you, you can't just shove it down. Because as you said, as massage therapists, we know that will get stuck in the physical body. That can show up as disease. It can show up as mental illness, anxiety. And it's going to be so important to get counseling if you need it. However, to just label your feelings, identify them, validate them, and allow them to pass through. So you can get to the other side of this trauma that has happened to you, so that it doesn't get stuck in there.
Yeah, that's so very true. And you'd mentioned being adjacent to the fires in San Diego, and you saw firsthand what it did to the community. And can you share just a little bit about that experience and how that translates to what's going on now, and possibly give some more valuable information to the folks that are going through this?
Yeah, so I was personally there in both 2007 and I cannot think of the year of the next major ones. I want to say, it was 2014, because my daughter, it was right before she turned 4. And I had 2 daughters at that time. The first one, it did come rather close to us and thankfully did not reach us. And that's when I was able to get out and volunteer. And I went into the communities that the houses were gone. And I spent all day shoveling rocks to make the bags to help set their barriers. And I was so sore, but it filled me with such hope to see everybody else come out and just work together to do what we could to help the people who did lose their home. And then in 2014, I had my 2 daughters and I just happened to be driving as it hit a neighborhood and I was right there and got stuck. And I watched the fire reach a house and it was just devastating to watch and know that's somebody's home. They're losing it, and there's nothing any of us can do in this moment. And their, you know, their life, their home, their stuff, which, you know me, I'm a minimalist. I'm not about materialism, but their photos and their mementos and their really important things are in that house, you know? And so to witness both those fires and see how close they both came to me, and then see the community come together, it's sad and yet so inspirational at the same time. And sometimes I feel like the universe has these things happen to remind people that people are good and people want to help you. And when put in a situation, they're going to be there for you. And of course, none of us want these tragedies to happen. But when you think about you're going day to day, and you're only hearing the negative news, and you start to think, God, people suck. They really don't. People are freaking amazing, and they will come through, and they will give you inspiration and hope. They will help you find shelter. They will help you find counseling to get through this. It really inspires me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Because, you know, when you get to see that firsthand, and, you know, sometimes there's guilt associated with that, where, you know, it didn't hit my house, but it hit my neighbors, and it didn't affect me the way that it affected my, you know, somebody in your family. And, you know, we're seeing that quite a bit. And, it's a difficult thing, because then as a caregiver, as somebody who's on the other side, you start to deplete yourself. You start to go, I want to give more and more and more. But having that resilience to create a boundary, to create, you know, a not just a separation, but like, there's only so much you can do before you break down.
Absolutely.
And just having that line of going, okay, I've helped enough today. There's always, you know, that next step, and other people, you know, step in, and humanity is amazing. And, you know, we're seeing communities, and, you know, it's so difficult for my heart to see that it's happening to the Hawaiian community. And at the same time, if it's happening anywhere, this is the place where it's such a tight knit place, where you can see people go, I didn't even know that person, but I know their heart. I know that we have similarities. And, you know, not everybody knows the word ohana, but, you know, having that family in a different way.
Yes.
And being, you know, here in Vegas, you know, and there's only so much that we can do from here. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to do this, is to instill this hope, because, you know, it's those small times. It's those small times, you know, the loss of your child. It doesn't just stop when you go to bed. It doesn't just stop at a certain time. It doesn't just, you know, just be done. It lives with you forever.
Forever.
You know, and so, you know, to be able to, you know, have these audios, these visuals, to come back and hear stories of hope, and going, you know, I'm in it right now. It's tough for me right now. I want to give up. Just know that there's just that glimmer that you can, you know, move forward, and it doesn't have to look like anybody else's. It doesn't have to be anybody else's story.
Exactly.
And, you know, keep that fight. And when you're not fighting, fill yourself back up, you know. And if you're listening, watching, and, you know, you're outside of this, do what you can to help yourself so that you can help other people. And that's where we're going to build back up as a community, right?
Absolutely. That was beautifully said.
Yeah, thank you. And, you know, I love that you're on. I love how, again, you're connected to so much of nature. And, you know, I mean, I can see in your background, I mean, you know, you've put down roots where you are, but, you know, you have the ability to move your home. And,
yes.
You know, it's not going into all of your story why you moved, but, you know, for you to have the resourcefulness to go, hey, it wasn't working in my life where I was. Hey, how do we move forward and do something different? And that's what you did. And again, it's going to look different for so many people.
It
And
does.
yeah. So is there anything else you want to share with the folks on here today?
Just as the last thing I would say, find your purpose in this, because there's always a purpose for the traumas that happen to us. And when you can find your purpose, as an example, as I did with volunteering, that became my purpose to give back and to especially help children since I had lost my own. It helped me move forward and wake up every day and not focus on the loss, because it was such an incredible loss. And when you can find a purpose, there's always a way you can then help the next person, whether it be a wildfire or any other tragedy that happens to them, you're going to have the resources and the tools to help them because you were able to allow yourself to find your purpose in what happened to you and not get stuck in the negative of it. Yeah,
that's a really great outlook. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I really appreciate that. And, if anybody's connected to what Kat has been saying today and want to have a conversation with her even deeper, Kat, where can people find you?
They can find me at katmullin.com or on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called it's called Badass Humans, Be Them, Raise Them. And on Instagram, I'm Coach Kat Mullin.
Awesome. And tell us the name of your book.
Raising Badass Humans.
Yeah, it's an amazing book.
Thank you.
And I don't personally have children, but even reading it allows me to be more connected to my nieces and my nephew.
Exactly.
And we can be adjacent and still help. We can still learn from other people, even if it's not something that's directly affecting us. And I think that's a good example for right now. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for helping people with hope and instilling that resilience and showing your own resilience to help others. Just so much gratitude to you, my friend. Appreciate
right
you.
Back at you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And until the next time, this is Hope for Hawaii, instilling stories of hope and resilience to help you get through these difficult times any time of day. I wanted to take a second to congratulate you for taking the time for yourself, to filling up your soul, your heart with hope, joy, and resilience during this tough time. This has been Hope for Hawaii. Help support our mission to help those that need a little bit of hope and resilience right now in their lives. So like, share, and comment on what has resonated with you and what do you want to see next. If you have a story yourself that you want to share with the world, please go to hope4hawaii.com and share your story. Maybe we'll have you on the podcast next.